Hello and welcome to your Newsmax Daily for a Wednesday that feels like a Tuesday, September the 3rd, 2025. Feels like a Tuesday for most people, I should say, right? Some people did work on Labor Day. It's the 246th day of the year, 119 to go. And with school back in session across the country now, there are still 19 days of summer on the calendar. Congress is also back in session after having the entire month of August off. They must now work on a budget, more of President Trump's nominees, Russia sanctions possibly, and the Epstein files. The House Oversight Committee getting right to it yesterday, releasing more than 33,000 pages related to the Epstein investigation last night. Documents provided by the DOJ in response to a subpoena that was issued by Chairman James Comer last month. Some of the material in that 33,000 pages, 33,000 plus, is material that was already public, but it also included for the first time some flight logs from Customs and Border, as well as some video and some other documents. Today, victims of Epstein's sex crimes are again on Capitol Hill pushing for the full release of all documents. And I forget how many thousands of documents were released previously, and now 33 plus thousand more, almost 34,000. And that's not all of the documents. I mean, how much investigation into Epstein was there, or how much was covered up, right? And President Trump's anticipated announcement wasn't about any of the big weekend headlines, as most had speculated.
All right, breaking news. Sorry, we're going to cut away and go to President Trump's announcement. Here it is.
This group is, every one of them, I rate a 10. I can't always say that, even if they're Republicans, and these are Republicans, great Republicans. I want to thank you all for being here for this important announcement, 7 years in the making. As you know, this has been going on for a long period of time, and I am thrilled to report that the U.S. Space Command headquarters will move to the beautiful locale of a place called Huntsville, Alabama, forever to be known from this point forward as Rocket City. Okay, so Huntsville, Alabama, we love Alabama. I only won it by about 47 points. I don't think that influenced my decision, though, right? That didn't, right? But we had a lot of competition for this, and Alabama's getting it, Huntsville in particular. So congratulations, everybody. Katie, congratulations. This will result in more than 30,000 Alabama jobs, and probably much more than that, and hundreds of millions of dollars of investment, and that's billions, because it can't be millions, it's billions and billions of dollars. Most importantly, this decision will help America defend and dominate the high frontier, as they call it. I want to thank Secretary Pete Hegseth. He's doing a fantastic job, and Secretary of the Air Force Troy Mink. Troy, thank you very much. Great job you're doing, Troy. This is such a big deal. This is one that everybody wanted to know. What are you doing? I also want to thank Senators Katie Britt, and I want to give my condolences. Your grandmother, her grandmother just passed away. She was 100, right?
100, and she loves you, Mr. President.
Well, and she was very proud of you.
Thank you very much.
Very, very proud of you. So thank you, Katie.
Wonderful woman.
She must have been. To produce you indirectly, I can tell you she had to be. Tommy Tuberville, who's a great coach. And I won't say anything about what happened with Alabama football this weekend.
Let's leave that out.
But you're not used to that, right? You're not used to that. But Tommy, Auburn won, is right. They did. So you're happy. Tommy's been a great senator, as you know, and a fantastic guy all around. He was also a tremendous coach. House Armed Services Committee Chair Mike Rogers. Thank you, Mike. Where's Mike? Mike, thank you very much. Doing great, Mike. Representatives Barry Moore, all great friends, Robert Adderholt, Gary Palmer, and Dale Strong. Thank you all very much, fellas. Appreciate it. In my first term, I created a thing called Space Force, so important. You know, we were losing the race in space very badly to China and to Russia, and now we're far and away number one in space, and reestablish Space Com with a mission to protect American space assets and detect any threat to our homeland. We initially selected Huntsville for the Spacecom headquarters, yet those plans were wrongfully obstructed by the Biden administration. And as you know, they moved them to a different locale. And today we're moving forward with what we want to do and the place that we want to have this. And this will be there for hopefully hundreds of years. That's where it's going to be. I will say I want to thank Colorado. The problem I have with Colorado, one of the big problems, they do mail-in voting. They went to all mail-in voting.
President Trump from the Oval Office, he has said as recently as this weekend that he will restrict mail-in voting except for people who are, quote, very ill and for those who are far away, like the military. After the Space Force to Huntsville announcement, the president, surrounded by members of his cabinet, had another big announcement.
When you come out and when you leave the room, you'll see that we just, over the last few minutes, literally shot out a boat, a drug-carrying boat, a lot of drugs in that boat. And you'll be seeing that and you'll be reading about that. It just happened moments ago. And our great general, head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, who's been so incredible, including what took place in Iran, knocking out potential nuclear power for a long time to come. I think within a month they would have had it if we didn't do what we did. But he gave us a little bit of a briefing, and you'll see. And there's more where that came from. We have a lot of drugs pouring into our country, coming in for a long time. And we just, these came out of Venezuela and coming out very heavily from Venezuela. A lot of things are coming out of Venezuela. So we took it out, and you'll get to see that after this meeting is over.
The president did also address all of the weekend reporting that I spoke about the past couple of days concerning his sudden supposed poor health.
You know, I have heard, it's sort of crazy, but last week I did numerous news conferences, all successful. They went very well, like this is going very well. And then I didn't do any for 2 days, and they said there must be something wrong with him. Biden wouldn't do them for months. You wouldn't see him. And nobody ever said there was ever anything wrong with him, and we know he wasn't in the greatest of shape. No, I heard that. I get reports. Now, you knew I did an interview that lasted for about an hour and a half with somebody, and everybody saw that was on one of your competitors. I did numerous shows and also did a number of truths, long truths, I think pretty poignant truths. No, I was very active over the weekend. They also knew I went out to visit some people at the club that I own, pretty nearby on the Potomac River. And no, I've been very active actually over the weekend. I didn't hear that one. That's pretty serious stuff.
I'm glad it's
well, it's fake news. You know, it's just it's so fake. That's why the media has so little credibility. I knew they were saying, like, is he okay? How's he feeling? What's wrong? I said, I just left. And it's also sort of a longer weekend, you know, it's Labor Day weekend. So I would say a lot of people know I was very active this Labor Day.
So there you go. And the president is very active today, hosting the new president of Poland at the White House, President Karol Nawrocki. I may be butchering his name, but I'm pretty sure that's it. Nawrocki. He was just sworn in last month. He'll be having lunch and then holding a bilateral meeting open to the press pool for questions. So you can see it and hear it all on Newsmax. Another big headline is from a federal judge who ruled against the administration's use of federal troops in Los Angeles. U.S. District Judge Charles Breyer, a President Clinton appointee, ruled that the actions violated an 1878 law, you know, around the time Breyer was born. The law bars federal troops from participating in civilian law enforcement. More from Newsmax host Bianca De La Garza and senior judicial analyst Judge Andrew Napolitano.
All right, so it is a 50-something page ruling. He says the Posse Comitatus Act, now they put the ruling on hold until September 12th. We know the Trump administration will appeal. But how much of this do you think is actually trying to just bolster the left to say if he does something like this in California, there's legal precedent? Because the Trump administration is saying we put in the Marines, we put in the National Guard, just protect federal buildings, Judge, and we have every right to do that.
They do have every right to protect federal assets. That's for federal personnel and federal physical assets like buildings. But Judge Breyer held a trial. Now, I wasn't there, I wasn't in the courtroom, but his findings were, and he quoted witnesses, many of whom were military witnesses, that the military had engaged in traffic stops and drunk driving arrests and things that police do. Now, from the LA police perspective, they like this because they have extra manpower on the streets helping them do their jobs. But this 1876 statute is still the law. It's been upheld many times by the Supreme Court, and it prohibits the military from doing police work. So the judge did not order the military to leave. He respected the president's right to keep the military there. There were 7,000. There's now about 300. He respected the president's right to keep them there to protect federal assets. He just barred them from engaging in military activity. Then he did something very interesting. He made his ruling statewide, not just in LA where this happened, but the entire state of California, because the president has threatened to do the same thing in San Francisco. I thought that was rather controversial and very bold of him to do. We'll see what the appellate court does. He also did the right thing by staying the effect of the ruling for 2 weeks to give the Trump administration time to file their inevitable appeal.
Yeah. Well, apparently Newsom doesn't want a National Guard, but he's okay putting California Highway Patrol suppression teams in places like L.A., which Bass welcomes. So there's either a crime problem or there's not a crime problem. You can't have it both ways, Newsom. But here we go. I want to talk about Ryan Routh. Judge Knapp, of course, he is charged with trying to kill President Trump at his Florida golf course. He's representing himself. There's a pretrial conference today. He has pleaded not guilty to the serious federal charges, assassination, assaulting a federal officer. Now we have, this sort of strange, situation where he's representing himself, which under the Constitution he can. But it probably will make it a very slow and challenging trial for the judge there, Eileen Cannon.
Oh, boy, you're putting it mildly. This is a judicial nightmare when the defendant represents himself in a criminal case, particularly a case where he's accused of trying to murder the President of the United States. I've tried criminal cases where defendants represent themselves. Listen to this, Bianca, because the defendant is entitled to a fair trial, if he's representing himself, doesn't know how to deal with documents, doesn't know how to cross-examine witnesses, doesn't know how to do anything in the courtroom, the judge has to actually help him without appearing to side with him. Because if the trial is fundamentally unfair because he doesn't know what the hell he's doing, and then he gets convicted, guess what? There's going to be a second trial. So this judge will have his or her patience tested like it's never been tested before.
Judge Andrew Napolitano on Newsmax. And the judge that he speaks of in that case is Judge Eileen Cannon, a Trump appointee in Florida. In yesterday's court filing, Ryan Routh, again, the guy arrested for attempting to shoot President Trump at his West Palm Beach golf course, Trump International, which is different than Mar-a-Lago. Routh submitted a list of witnesses that he would like to call, including strippers, various presidential scholars, and requested a putting green in the court, as well as a golf match with President Trump, saying if Trump wins, quote, he can execute me. The judge's patience are definitely going to be tested indeed. And this is from Greg Kelly Reports.
And it's also, of course, a very dangerous job. It is.
It's a dangerous profession being president. If you look, race car drivers, think of this, 1/10 of 1%. Bull riders, 1/10 of 1%. Presidents, I won't tell you the number, but it's big.
Yeah.
It's a dangerous profession. Why didn't you tell me this? You could have told me this, please.
Well, we actually ran the numbers, and it is a very dangerous job. Take a look. As far as fatalities go, 8.69% of presidents have been killed on the job. Now, of course, President Trump was shot, right? He was almost killed. If you add up everybody who was shot and or killed, right, the number is staggering. Almost 18% of presidents have been shot or killed or both, right? I mean, it's just kind of crazy. That's a dangerous job compared to other professions, certainly. It's off the charts. Take a look. We got race car driver. We got bull riders. You see, these are dangerous jobs, and those are actually pretty high statistics. We're not taking away anything from those jobs, but there are a lot more of those guys than there are presidents, so the odds are really something.
Greg Kelly is the host of Greg Kelly Reports, 9 p.m. Eastern. Rob Schmitt, host of Rob Schmitt Tonight at 7 Eastern, had a couple of great interviews last night. First up, Judge Jeanine Pirro.
Jeanine Pirro is the U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, joining us now from the White House. Good to see you. I want to start with the president announcing that D.C. is effectively a crime-free zone. Just last night, 70 more arrests, 27 were illegals, 3 more illegal gun seizures, grand total over 1,600 arrests, more than 160 illegal guns taken off the streets. The crime rate has plummeted, the murder rate has plummeted, and somehow you're getting a lot of fury from the other side on this.
It doesn't make sense, does it?
No.
1,669 arrests since the surge started, since President Trump made the decision to make D.C. safe and beautiful, along with 168 guns that have been removed from the street. And that means that those guns can no longer be used to shoot, maim, or murder other individuals. Look, we know then that Washington, D.C. is one of the most violent cities in America. And the president is determined to turn this city around, and he's done so by putting together federal law enforcement partners along with the Metropolitan PD. And every day we are seeing the results of that. And what's really amazing is that last night my staff told me that it was the first night they didn't have a felon in possession. We call them FIPS, because the worst of the criminals are now aware that we're out there, that we're tracking them, that we're going to arrest them. And so if we haven't already charged them, they at least are aware of the deterrent effect of this operation. And it is a successful operation, given the fact that crime has gone down. Even the Mayor Bowser said violent crime has gone down 50%. What you need is to remind some of these people, whether they're young punks on the street, 14, 15, 16 years old, that I can't possibly prosecute, even if they shoot someone with an illegal gun, that justice is coming. And we're going to make sure that D.C. is a safe area, that the people who live, work, and visit here can feel comfortable being here.
It's such a simple thing, and it's the frustration that the other side continues to push back on. What it's just logic. I mean, you cannot have a society where the bad people think that they have carte blanche to do whatever they want. You just can't have that. And the fact that this idea keeps. They keep, I mean, they've been trying this in big cities for 40 or 50 years. Let's just go easy on everybody, and at some point we're going to reach utopia. We've never gotten there yet, and white liberals are the ones that go the craziest over this. We see the protests every time. It's the people that don't live in Southeast D.C., and then you have the black residents that have to shoot their way out of the grocery store that are the ones that have to live in the environment that's created by these fools.
Yeah. Well, I mean, certainly you hit the nail on the head when you talk about the fact that the people most affected by crime are the people who actually want the president and want law enforcement there to protect their families. And unfortunately, you know, you've got these liberals and these political ideologues who are like, oh, no, we can't have this. Wait, what can't you have? You can't have safety in the city. You can have law enforcement bringing law and order to a city where in the last year and 8 months, 45 black teens and some as young as 3 and 5 years old have been shot with guns and killed. And the clearance rate is only 29%, which means 70% of the criminals are out there with their guns continuing to do whatever it is they do. I mean, this is political nonsense. Only President Trump has figured it out. And in the end, he's going to make this a shining city on the hill again.
Nearly 1,700 arrests and 168 weapons taken off the streets since federal troops hit the streets. Judge Jeanine Pirro, U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia. Next up, Rob spoke with former MLB star Mark Teixeira, who I told you last week is now running for Congress in Texas.
Teixeira planning his return to Texas, announcing last week that he'll be running for Congress. in the state, hoping to fill the seat of our friend Congressman Chip Roy, who's now going to be running for Texas Attorney General. Teixeira started his career with the Texas Rangers, ended it here in New York with the Yankees, and he joins us now. And Mark, it's good to have you on. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Rob.
What led you to this decision? You know, I mean, you're retired. You know, you've got the good life, ex-baseball player. You want to get into politics. Why?
Well, first of all, because I love this country, and this country is worth fighting for. But, you know, this journey for me started back in 2013. I was playing with the Yankees, had wrist surgery, and I had an entire summer where I didn't play baseball for the first time in my life. And I sat around with my wife, and we prayed about it a lot and, you know, said, hey, God, show me what you want me to do when I'm done playing baseball, because you can't play this game forever. We know that. And I knew I had a lot of life to live and a lot to give. And so I prayed about it. Some doors opened up for me in politics. I've been involved in fundraising and advocacy, and this opportunity came to be, and I'm just excited to jump on top of it.
Well, you know, has there been something? I mean, we had a rough 4 years before this last election, and we had a good election, but those were some scary years, I think, for a lot of people in the country. Did those 4 years push you in this direction? Were you worried about the direction we're going in? I mean, I look at Europe right now, and I'm terrified about what's happening to the culture and what they're doing to the people in those countries. Is that what led you down the road?
That's exactly it, Rob. You know, the last 4 years, I really started getting serious because we were close to losing our country. You look at open borders, you look at dangerous streets, you look at a Democratic Party that is pushing us towards socialism. And, you know, I, for one, don't want to live in that type of country. And I want my kids and my grandkids to live in that type of country. So it takes American first conservative policies to bring our country back. And that's exactly what President Trump is doing. And I hope I can join his team to get America back to where we belong, which is prosperous and free and safe.
Your state, Texas, you know, it was interesting when they redrew the congressional map and you had all these leaders from places like Illinois and New York that have been gerrymandered to hell and back were screaming about what they were doing in Texas. What did you make of all of that controversy?
That just shows the Democratic Party and their hypocrisy. Yeah. It shows that they're not serious. It shows they don't have a plan. If you had a real plan, you wouldn't go to a state like Illinois, which is the most gerrymandered in the country. If you had a problem with gerrymandering, you shouldn't have done it. So yeah. I think we're past that. And I think I would ask every single Democrat out there, do you really care about your constituents? Do you really care about America? Do you want to make it strong? Because if you do, we're willing to talk. But if you're going to keep going further and further left, if you're going to keep passing progressive policies that are hurting our cities, and that's what's happening in all these cities with liberal, progressive mayors, right. then we're going to have to fight back.
Yeah. Want to just end it on a funny note here. Senator Eric Schmitt, a friend of the show, tweeted out that we might win the congressional baseball game by 50 runs. Are you going to play on the team? And I mean, you're going to play first base? What do you think?
Absolutely. You know, Congressman Williams, Roger Williams, he says I got to make the team first. There's tryouts, you know, and so I'll make sure I bring my glove and bat if I'm blessed enough to win this seat. But got to earn my at-bats, got to earn my time in the field. But, man, that'd be a lot of fun to play in that game.
Yeah, I'd love to watch your at-bats. Mark Teixeira, thanks for joining us. Good luck to you, sir. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Rob.
That would definitely be something, Mark Teixeira in the congressional baseball game. Not only would it be great for Republicans, but it would bring in a lot of fans, I'm sure. Baseball fans know Mark is a 3-time All-Star, 5-time Golden Glove winner, and has the Major League Baseball record for the most home runs from both sides of the plate. That means batting lefty and righty. A storied career, a tremendous ball player, and a great American, as you heard right there. I had the pleasure of meeting Mark many years ago when he played for the Rangers, because the radio station I worked for at the time, KRLD, was and still is the home of the Texas Rangers radio network. Great radio station. I said this last week when I mentioned it, and I'm going to say it again. I would absolutely love a Mark Teixeira for Congress t-shirt. If you can hook me up, let me know. At @radio_Marino on X. I know you may not be on X, but if you are, @radio_Marino, drop a comment, question, complaint, whatever. Let me know where you're listening, when you listen, things like that. I always love to hear from listeners, even the ones that hate Trump and hate me. That's fine. And we'll wrap up today's Newsmax Daily with some news about Newsmax from Greta Van Susteren.
And we have some good news about us about this news show. Starting next week, our news show, The Record, moves to 4 p.m. Eastern. And it's the perfect time for this news show and for any news show, since each day at 4 p.m. Eastern, 3 big news events occur. The stock markets close, court ends for the day, and congressional hearings pretty much turn off the lights at 4 p.m. Eastern, too. That means this show at 4 p.m. Eastern will be at the tip of the completion of most of the major news of the day in the market, the court, and Congress. This allows me to do more of what I love, reporting the news that just happened and then explaining it. So what happens in this time slot at 6 p.m. Eastern? My very good friend Carl Higbie will take over this time slot. And you all know Carl. He will, as only Carl can, captivate you with his thoughts and opinions of the day's news. My colleague Chris Salcedo, who refers to himself as a liberty-loving Latino, moves into Carl's spot at 5 p.m. Eastern. So beginning at 6 p.m. Eastern, right after I sign off at 4:59 p.m., you have an action-packed block of opinion shows. Chris at 5 p.m., and Carl at 6 p.m. I know you're going to like this. And on a personal note, it does fulfill what I wanted to do here at Newsmax when I first sat down with Newsmax more than 3.5 years ago to discuss joining the network. But as it all shook out 3.5 years ago, I got the 6 p.m. Eastern slot. Don't get me wrong. I have immensely enjoyed this 6 p.m. hour, reporting from or doing reports from Ukraine, Israel, Poland, Ecuador, Colombia. And I've had so many interesting guests and powerful people, including senators, members of Congress. But remember, those senators and members of Congress often need to pre-tape because they have to run to the airport at 5:30 or they have to go to a dinner. But now, with my show at 4 p.m. Eastern, I'm going to get those senators and members of Congress live before they run off to the airport or dinner. Frankly, if you talk to anyone in the news business, they'll tell you doing live interviews are much more fun than taped interviews. There's another plus to this change for me. Newsmax has just built me a brand new home studio, and I thank them for that. So by finishing my 4 p.m. show at 5 p.m., I now get to go home to do hits during the evening hours as news breaks and as needed. This was harder when I was driving home in D.C. traffic when I got off this show at 7 p.m. Eastern. So I'm excited about the change. It's a new challenge.
So beginning next week, Greta Van Susteren on the record at 4, the Chris Salcedo Show at 5, Carl Higbie's Frontline at 6. On Wall Street, stocks opened mixed this morning with the S&P and the NASDAQ higher. The Dow was lower, down about 100 points. After closing deep in the red yesterday. Shares of Google on the rise today after a judge ruled the company will not have to sell Chrome, but it will have to share some of its data. The antitrust ruling and data sharing gets real technical, so I'm not going to try and explain it all. Shares of Macy's trading higher today as well after the company posted better than expected earnings, showing strength in retail. Again, it's all about the consumer and that big jobs report coming out on Friday. Bitcoin and other major cryptocurrencies higher as well. Bitcoin is just over 111,000 this morning. Ether up $100 at 43.70. So it's another big day at the White House. President Trump hosting the president of Poland. Big day on Capitol Hill as well, as Congress is back on the job, and hopefully they will do their job. Stay informed. Keep up with breaking news all day on Newsmax N2 and at Newsmax.com. The news now starts every morning at 6 Eastern with Alex Kramer, followed by Wake Up America, National Report, Newsline at noon, The Chris Salcedo Show, Greta, Ed Henry, straight through Rob Schmitt Tonight, Finnerty, Greg Kelly, Chris Plant, and The Right Squad, and much, much more. I'm Tony Marino. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. Oh, and don't forget, $1.3 billion with a B up for grabs tonight. Don't forget about the guy who reminded you to get a ticket either. And keep on fighting the good fight.
News breaks every minute, every day. You need the app, the Newsmax app. Find it free on your smartphone store. Then watch us anytime, anywhere.
Information. Truth is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.